U.S. Supreme Court voting 5-3 tonight that Wisconsin cannot count mail ballots that arrive 6 days after Election Day. The justices siding with Republicans refusing to reinstate a lower court order that called for mail ballots to be counted if received up to 6 days after the November 3rd election.
Yeah, so Wisconsinites, drop off your ballot or vote in person, because if you mail it, it may not be counted. And this was particularly painful because it's a preview of what's to come for decades, because obviously Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed yesterday.
From judge to Justice Barrett.
I, Amy Coney Barrett.
Exactly 1 month after being nominated by President Trump, Amy Coney Barrett now joins the nation's highest court, concluding one of the quickest and most controversial Supreme Court confirmations in modern American history.
I love the Constitution and the democratic republic that it establishes, and I will devote myself to preserving it.
It means conservative stranglehold of the courts, basically, and the conservative agenda. Was there any doubt that Republicans were going to confirm Amy Coney Barrett? Democrats seem to, or at least some of them, have made the calculation that it wasn't worth it to hold up this nominee in procedure when they could use it as an electoral tactic to get more people to vote, which I feel like is such a marginal strategy and one from weakness. Republicans never think that way. They always attack. They always pounce on the opportunity to fight for their agenda, and they've often won. So I hate that strategy, obviously. They were never going to be able to unite behind throwing procedural hurdles in the Republicans' way. And I said this last night, for every AOC, for every Ilhan Omar, for every Bernie Sanders, for every Elizabeth Warren, right? Someone who would be willing to fight on this issue. There are 5 Dianne Feinsteins. There are 5 Chuck Schumers. There are 5 Nancy Pelosi's. It's just, this is not the Democratic Party that fights. And you think this is the party that's going to pack the courts? Look, I wish I had better news for you, and I hate to be cynical, but Biden has fetishized working with Republicans his entire career, and the Democratic Party is already not united behind that strategy. So I just don't see that happening. But back to the issue at hand. So this presents a dire problem because Wisconsin, I don't know if you guys know this, is a pretty damn important state in the presidential race. And this means, according to some estimations, tens of thousands of ballots could not be counted. The Supreme Court on Monday night rejected a pandemic-related request from Democrats and civil rights groups to extend the deadline for counting mail-in ballots received after Election Day in the key battleground state of Wisconsin. The vote was 5-3, with the Republican-nominated conservatives in the majority and the Democratic-nominated liberals in dissent. Oh yeah, they're just voting based on their judicial philosophy. The court's order showed the deep division within the court about the series of pandemic-related election cases that have come to dominate its agenda. The decision was a victory for Republicans and President Trump in a state where he narrowly won in 2016 and polls show him behind this year. While Democrats have embraced mail-in voting, Trump has railed against it. The court's conservatives say they must defer to state officials on election decisions made in the largely Republican-run states, and the liberal justices say there is a need for dramatic action by judges to ensure the franchise for endangered voters during an unprecedented time. On the scales of both constitutional justice and electoral accuracy, protecting the right to vote in a health crisis outweighs conforming to a deadline created in safer days, Liberal Justice Elena Kagan wrote in dissent. Conservative Justice Brett M. Kavanaugh answered that Kagan's green light to the federal courts to rewrite dozens of state election laws around the country over the next 2 weeks seems to be rooted in the belief that federal judges know better than state legislators about how to run elections during a pandemic. Okay, Brett, way to be so smug about it, pretending like Kagan has this ridiculous judicial philosophy where, oh, we want to lord over everybody. She's like, no, I just want to ensure that all the votes are counted. And he's being purposefully obtuse about the fact that it was Wisconsin's majority GOP legislature that made this decision, and it's clearly for partisan purposes. So it's this fiction that I don't know if he gets himself to believe, but a lot of conservative judges and liberal ones who are fighting for the right things, but they say they use this pretense of judicial philosophy when it's really just they're acting in the way that they believe that the country should be run. So it's funny, though, by the way, for Brett Kavanaugh here, because in Pennsylvania, the state party Republicans recently brought a case to the Supreme Court in which they were deadlocked, where they were arguing about if a ballot received 3 days after Election Day, even if it has a legible postmark, should be counted. Now, because there's only 8 justices on the Supreme Court, and Roberts actually sided, fortunately, with against the Republicans there, that decision is temporarily standing, that yes, 3 days after Election Day, those mail-in ballots can still be counted. But now that Barrett has been confirmed, they could rush this before the election, and she could side with the rest of the conservatives, which would be disastrous. In Pennsylvania, though, the person who made this decision was the state attorney general. So wonder how Brett Kavanaugh voted on this. Wonder how he decided. Of course he was with the conservatives. Of course he was. He says that it's all about states' rights and they get to make their own decisions. Well, the state attorney general in Pennsylvania made the decision that 3 days after the election, these ballots should still be counted. What say you? Oh, you're a partisan hack that pretends you're doing things for principled reasons. That's what all of this is. So, I mean, what was his quote here? He said Kagan's was rooted in a belief that federal judges know better than state officials, I guess, about how to run elections, right? That's what he was saying, insulting her integrity, basically. I'm insulting your integrity, Brett Kavanaugh.